Hello there, welcome to Nerd.World Films, and today I'm doing a full spoiler alert. Spoiler, because I know a lot of people still won't have seen this, but I don't understand why you wouldn't have for Ghostbusters Afterlife. So if you don't want to know how the film goes, how it ends, anything, don't watch this. Just don't. Go watch the film. Seriously, watch the film. The film is awesome. With that said, with all the spoiler warnings, I will try and remember to link to my blog, possibly down below, and if I remember, where I did a spoiler-free review of this film, but we'll see. With that said, let's get started. This film is epic, and I'm not going to say it doesn't have its flaws, but compared to the film that shall not be named for controversy purposes 2016, it is amazing. It starred, of course, Paul Rudd, and this lady, McKenna Grace, as the character Phoebe, really stood out to me. And I thought normally, we all know a film with kids in it, kids and animals, it's legendary that in Hollywood you don't work with kids or animals. It's like a rule of thumb. You got to be very brave to do it. Normally, kids, really fucking irritating. That girl, in fact, none of them. This kid, Logan Kim, none of them annoying. His name's a bit stupid, but I can forgive him for that. The only one who was a little borderline for me was Finn Wolfhard. I know that people know him from oh my god, it's gone from my head. Probably remember in a bit. But I've never actually watched it, and he didn't do much for me. He almost felt like a superfluous character, but it wasn't that he was bad, it's just that he somehow felt like he wasn't needed. But this film is a direct sequel to both the 1980s Ghostbusters movies, as if you didn't know that already, and of course it has as many of the returning living cast as possible. Really great to see Annie Potts, and of course Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and of course the amazing Ernie Hudson. And I mean amazing, that guy is awesome. If you've ever seen the movies The Substitute, where he actually plays a villain, fuck me, awesome, great. And like I say, this scene, actually thinking of it, just seeing this little square with the mini Stay Puffs, as much as I want one, they're kind of why that was my dog in the background, probably fighting with the other dog. But yeah, aside from nostalgia bait with those things, I couldn't really understand why they were there, but they were very cool, they were very funny. Basically, we pick up in the movie at the beginning with a man that it is alluded to is probably Egon, running away from some kind of spectral ghost. He gets back to a farm in a very isolated area. We don't know why he's there. He sets off a trap that fails, and he ends up getting killed. His daughter and grandchildren then inherit it. We find out that Egon pretty much abandoned his family years ago to come out and live in this farm, where locals refer to him as Dirt Farmer, because he always seemed to be tending to his crops, but nothing ever grew, so he's literally farming dirt. His daughter has absolutely no warm feelings towards her father, but both his grandson and his granddaughter both display certain talents that are similar to his. His grandson is a phenomenal mechanic and engineer, and his granddaughter is very analytical, very scientifically minded, very level-headed, and is really one of the highlights of this film. And I mean, I truly mean that. She is really good in this film. I mean, and of course Paul Rudd is amazing in everything that he is in. I mean, it's a Paul thing. Pauls are awesome, if anyone's ever told you that. It's a Paul thing. They're awesome. All Pauls. My name's not Paul, really. Anyway. Yeah. They inherit the house, and mostly his granddaughter Phoebe begins experiencing strange little things happening around the farm. Various other things start to happen around the town, and they find a ghost trap, which something leads her to. Paul Rudd, being, Paul Rudd, lets the damn thing out. The damn thing then flies off to this trap which Egon had set up, which was keeping Gozer under control and preventing Gozer from rising. But now, as things start to get worse, eventually the trap is, of course, well, now I don't want to go into every detail and every blow of the film. I'm just going to go with things go to shit. They end up fixing Ecto 1, and Ecto 1 looks as awesome in this as it ever does, even as a banged up old machine. Still looks phenomenal. It looks like he puts a gun seat in it, which is awesome to see them chasing after the sort of Slimer substitute in this movie, which would be Muncher, I think they called it. Didn't mind it. Would have preferred to have seen Slimer, but I know why they didn't go with it. It would have been a bit too much nostalgia baiting, I think. But this film is a good example of giving the fans what they want. Now, I wasn't going to mention this film. I'm not actually going to slag off Ghostbusters 2016. It does have its merits, and it does have people that enjoy it. For me, it has a very mostly talented cast, some of whom I really like. Although they don't always star in films I necessarily like, but that's just because of the genres I prefer. There are plenty of very talented people behind it. My issue was with the director, Paul Feig. He's not the best director. He was the wrong man to do the job. Now, these women were told to improvise much of their lines. Now, that's fine. As a lot of that happened in the original Ghostbusters, particularly with people like Bill Murray, and of course, it's fairly well known that Rick Moranis improvised many of his lines. In fact, the entire scene in Ghostbusters where he opens the door and he's having his little house party, and this couple come in, he takes their hat and their coat, and literally every word that leaves his mouth from that moment all the way to the closet where he puts the coats in there, every single word was improvised, and no one would think any different. So I understand why Paul Feig thought to himself, these are all SNL alumni, just like the original cast were. He let them improvise, and something like 50-60% of the script was basically thrown out. Now, it's not that these women can't improvise, it's that the story was what was compromised by allowing them to go so far off base. This film doesn't make that mistake. I'm not saying someone like Paul Rudd or any of the other cast couldn't improvise and do something funny, but by sticking to the story, by sticking to the script, you ended up with something that narratively and creatively made sense. Now, the film does have its flaws. It does. It's not a perfect movie. It's not Aliens, which is a perfect movie. It's not Predator, which is a perfect movie. It's not Casablanca, which is a perfect movie. This film is not perfect, and it's not great because people keep comparing it to Ghostbusters 2016. It's great because it has a structured story that has A to B to C. It does hit a lot of plot points, it does hit a lot of nostalgia baiting, which it's criticised for, but I don't understand why, because just giving the fans what they want is not a bad thing. It makes them go and watch it, it makes money, it helps the industry keep going. People's lives depend on this, not these rich people. I mean, Paul Rudd, beautiful man, I want him to continue living forever, and based on the fact that I think he may be an immortal, that's possibly going to happen. No, that's not the thing. It's all the people behind the scenes. There's whole industries that depend on this actually working. By keep producing the tripe that, to be honest, they do produce most of the time, they're going to bury an industry that's been around for decades with a very impressive history. And it's particularly recently where we've been losing people like Sidney Poitier. We're losing some of the Hollywood greats. Betty White. It's a tragedy. But this film, nothing to do with that. Fantastic. I won't completely spoil the ending, but we all know they win. Gozer returns, and actually Gozer looks freaking amazing, considering they got a completely different actress to play the part. They really pull off making it look like original Gozer, which they could have gone a different way. There was no need. There was one little thing that stuck with me, which seemed a little random, and I've, off the top of my head, completely forgotten his name, actually. I'll click on this, see if he's there. Now, the guy that originally designed the skyscraper in the original Ghostbusters movie, which was built to basically bring back Gozer, was... Am I going to see his name? Am I going to read it fast enough? I'm not going to read it fast enough. There's something that's called Skittles. Ivo Shandor. I couldn't find it. I had to go away and Google it. It was bugging the shit out of me. Ivo Shandor. Now, there's this scene where he appears. Now, they find his body. He's kind of like alive or dead, it's not entirely sure. He resurrects when Gozer comes back, and he makes the foolish mistake of saying something to Gozer along the lines of, "Oh, we're going to rule the world together," and snap his neck and he's dead. And it just seems so wasted. And I do wonder if that was a bit of a setup, which may have payoff in the next movie, which hopefully will not be in 30 years. Because I'll probably be very old or dead. Now, I'm hoping there is actually going to be payoff in a few years for that, because I'd love to see all of these characters returning for this movie. It's obvious we're not going to get Bill Murray or Dan Aykroyd back, but there is a feeling you get from the end credits scene that Ernie Hudson. Now, for those that didn't watch all the end credits scenes, you might not be aware Sigourney Weaver was in it. They appear in one end credit scene with Bill Murray, and then there's another end credit scene right literally at the end credits. There's a mid credits and an end credits scene, which definitely is set up for the next movie. And it has Ernie Hudson in it, and the firehouse, and all the rest of it. Which brings into question a statement about how it's now a Subway or Starbucks or something that they mentioned in the earlier part of the film. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one they said. Mostly because I kind of feel like both of those right now. I'm recording this midnight, so it's neither of those is going to be open. But yeah, that's definitely a setup for the next film, because they mention earlier in the movie that it's not in existence anymore. It's now a Starbucks, let's say, but he goes to it and it's clearly just an abandoned building that he apparently owned, as he's quite wealthy now, and he's clearly going to become the next benefactor. It's obvious. But when that film's coming, don't know, but hopefully it will do at some point, because this film was so good. I can't leave too much of this playing because I already get so many of my videos demonetized because I just don't give a damn about having things playing on them. I figure it makes the videos better. Anyway, someone's getting money for it, I suppose, somewhere. Yeah. The film is awesome. I cannot rave about it enough. I give it, in my scoring system, which is the highlight of all these videos, a full nerdgasm of 6 out of 6. And for me, I seriously gasmed all over this film. It was amazing. I always gasm over Paul Rudd. He's good in everything he's in. That came out wrong. But in a way, it didn't. Yeah, the film is genuinely brilliant, genuinely worth a watch. Again, it's not a perfect movie. Not going to say it's absolutely perfect. The Stay Puft thing's kind of meh, and that guy meh. But that was me personally, my personal opinion. Other people will likely feel different. I do feel it is a hell of a lot better than the last outing of Ghostbusters, but that isn't to say I don't enjoy that film. I think it has a demographic. I do enjoy certain elements of it. I can't not like Chris Hemsworth, even though I try to pretend I don't understand what they were doing with his character and just enjoy it for what it is. My daughter likes the film. She's 7. But she likes it, so there we go. And she also likes the original one, so she has some taste. Anyway, with all that said, if you made it all at the end of this video, thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, comment down below, and also check out all my other channels that are linked in the description below. And again, my website, which has my blog on it, which has various things where I do more opinionated stuff in there than what I will normally do on here. And yeah, thank you for watching. Bye bye.